Hey BookTube, today I'm doing the favorite childhood book tag, and I was tagged by Dane over at Dane Reads, and it's an original tag by Anthony Andrews, and I'll link down below to both of their videos. So, without further ado, let's get on with the questions. What was your favorite book as a child? Went back and forth. Ended up going for This Can't Be Happening at McDonald Hall. Very, very Canadian content version here. This is indeed the original book, which is Falling to Bits Scholastic book. Gordon Corman's first book, written when he was 12 years old. So not only is it a childhood book, it's a book written by a child. Originally written at 12 years old and turned in as a book report. Ended up getting published when he was 14. Probably quite an inspiration to young me who never did get a book published, but here's a 12-year-old who wrote a book and got it published, and actually it was a really hilarious book. I enjoyed it and its many sequels, and indeed Mr. Corman has gone on to do lots and lots more books and is still writing today. Yes, This Can't Be Happening in McDonald Hall, where Bruno and Boots, the title there, they're roomies at a private boarding school, and boarding schools, they were popular even before Harry Potter were, and totally got into these books and all the hijinks, and very, very hilarious books. I'm afraid to read this copy because I think I would destroy it, and it's obviously something I spent $1.75 on. Probably, I think it's a Scholastic thing, so this is where they would give you a little their little booklet in school, their little order booklet, and you tick off what you wanted. And obviously, this is one of the books I ticked off and had delivered to me, and I was like, oh, this was super exciting. This is me getting my stuff. So number 2, what was your favorite film as a child? I was thinking, I was like, there's E.T., which is one of these movies that still stands up today. It's interesting. It's a book that, yes, the adults were scary as children when you watch this as a child, and then you realize as an adult that the adults in their own kind of bumbling, shocking way were actually trying to protect the children, which is interesting in that. Return to Witch Mountain, just as a very odd kind of slice of Disney live-action sci-fi with psychic kids, and at least that's my vague memory of it. This is obviously not the one with The Rock in it. This is much earlier. Black Hole of... I just have this vision, again, another live-action Disney in their kind of quite failed period, but I have the image of the, I think it's the bad guy falling into the black hole and falling into basically kind of the satanic-looking hellscape. And that image, I can't remember any of the rest of the movie, except maybe there was robots and stuff like that. I can hardly remember anything. And then what came to me very, very last, as almost an afterthought, and then whacked my head over, is, man, I was like 7 or 10 years old in the back of my parents' car watching Star Wars in a drive-in for the very first time. And that exploded my world. But that it would take me so long to actually remember that probably indeed was the thing that dominated my life is something, I guess it's kind of a comment of how much little I care about that sort of stuff now, or at least Star Wars stuff now. Number 3, what was your favorite song as a child? I wasn't a big music person early on in my life. I think, there's the Beatles, and I remember all the kids in my school bringing Grease, like soundtrack to Grease in, and they were like, we'd end up listening to that like every lunch break or all that. It was just Grease over and over again. And I think I had to go a little bit later where my mother went to a music store and said, oh, well, I want to buy something for my son, like what's popular at the moment. And the store clerk, who's probably one of those tricksy teenagers, gave her AC/DC, Back in Black. And yes, there was a different path of my life where I still kept on the Beatles, but man, I was definitely into AC/DC, Back in Black, when I was like 10 or 11 years old, which is probably about the right age to be into AC/DC. No offense to all you adult AC/DC fans out there, but yeah. What was your favorite author as a child? And it's like, there's like C.S. Lewis, I read like a lot of the Narnia books. I think that's a fair one. Um, there's John D. Fitzgerald, his Great Brain series were definitely books that I consumed. I consumed lots of. I guess I go with him. Because I don't know, I soured on C.S. Lewis for a while in there just because of the whole allegory thing, and that turned me off. But I don't know if that was a kind of a mid-teen thing of being kind of disillusioned by this. Oh, it's trying to push Christianity on me, and that bothering me a lot and got in the way of me enjoying the books and actually going back to the books now and actually being able to kind of set that aside and still and enjoy the books. Um, Number 6, what was the worst book you read as a child? And of course, when they're bad books, the beauty thing as a child is you just kind of go, and you kind of toss it away. I think the most disturbing book that I read as a child, it was like a collection of like ghoulish horror stories. And it was like, I remember reading on the bus something about taking the bus home from school and reading one of the stories, because I'm this nerdy kid who was reading books on the bus, not talking to anyone else who would probably be bullying me anyways. And just this story about like, this person going into the woods and getting lost and starving to death and coming across this burnt out hut, and there being like, people hadn't made it out of the hut, but they were so hungry that they ended up eating the cooked flesh of the thing. And that was just like, that really disturbed me. And I obviously didn't continue on with that author. So I guess that's the worst book. It's funny, for most stuff like I guess might have been considered inappropriate or above my reading level as a child, it would just bounce off me, and it wouldn't process or something like that. It's amazing. I think that for kids, especially in reading, you're able to like, oh no, that's not for me, and you just keep on going, and it doesn't stick. But yeah, so I guess that would be my thing of something that somehow did stick. And I've never been a big horror fan, maybe as a result, so it maybe it scarred me that way. It didn't allow me to enjoy all the horror stuff. What was the one character from your favorite book as a child you would like to meet and become friends with? And I don't know if we'd be friends, but probably Harriet from Harriet the Spy. Just because she spied on kids, she just kept on her notebooks, and I don't know if we'd be friends. We'd probably more like spy on each other from across the yards or whatever. That would be, I guess, my most antisocial choice. Probably maybe the Great Brain's brother, because the Great Brain's brother seemed to be the one who actually narrated the books, and he actually was the appealing character, the Great Brain in the Great Brain books, who was this very precocious, snarky, arrogant kid. He was viewed as the hero by his little brother, who narrated the books, but you kind of did get the sense of, yeah, he was, while very smart, could also not have actually kind of the human feeling and the caringness that his younger brother did. So yeah, the Great Brain's little brother, I guess, is my answer for that one. And then number 8, finally, tag a friend. And I don't know about friends, because who's friends anywhere, but the people that I would like to tag, that like other booktubers that I would enjoy hearing their stuff are The Book Ponderer, 7 Days at Sea, Kaelin Reads, Novel Crawler, Yokel Reads, and Words Everywhere. If you feel like doing this tag, do this tag. If not, merrily along your way. I was very happy. Thank you, Dane, for tagging me. That was kind of a fun thing to do, a little trip down memory lane. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. More videos later.